Hi guys, my name's Jenna and this is my podcast, Paranormal Chronicles. I'm starting this podcast because I want to share my personal paranormal experiences, but also share your paranormal experiences. Today for my first podcast, I'll be introducing myself and sharing my personal paranormal experiences. If you'd like to share your paranormal experiences and have them shared on my podcast, you can email me at paranormalchronicleswithjenna@gmail.com. Again, that's Paranormal Chronicles with Jenna at gmail.com. So, my name's Jenna. I am 31 years old. I am from North Carolina, but when I was like 13, I moved up to New York State, upstate New York. So that's kind of where I currently live. I have 3 kids. I have a 12-year-old boy named Aiden. I have a daughter who is 10, about to turn 11, named Lily. And I have my third, who's my youngest, who is Seth, who is 8. So that's pretty much my basic life. I've had a lot of paranormal experiences since I was a kid. And some of them negative, some of them positive. I've met with a lot of mediums. I have medium friends. I just really am very fascinated with the paranormal. I've always have been. I've done paranormal investigations and things like that. And in our household, we are huge Sam and Colby fans and also Paranormal Files fans. We've seen literally every single episode from both of them. So that's a little bit about me. So I guess I'll go into a little bit about some of my paranormal experiences. I probably won't share them all today because I've had literally so many over the years, but I'll share my most predominant ones since I was a kid, and then kind of go from there. And then, like I said, if you want to share your paranormal experiences, you can email me, and on one of my podcasts, I will go ahead and share them. My very first experience that I can remember was when I was up in New York visiting visiting my aunt, and I was sleeping in the bedroom with my little cousin, and for me, I thought this was a dream, almost like a sleep paralysis dream, but I guess later on, my aunt, a couple years ago, I found out my aunt was like, nope, that actually happened to you, which makes more sense, which I'll kind of explain a little bit later. So I was laying in bed and I was sleeping, and at least this is how I remember it, I woke up and there was I couldn't move, and I heard a demonic voice talking to me. I don't remember what was being said to me, but it was super just creepy. I remember not being able to move and horrible things were being said to me. I think I blocked it out as a child because it was just so horrific. Eventually I was able to move, and then I ended up screaming and crying, running into my aunt's room, and ended up sleeping with her. I guess I remember the next morning, my aunt ended up giving me this, so my dad's side of the family is Catholic, mom's side of the family is non-denominational Christian. But anyways, my aunt gave me this necklace. I don't remember, it was a protection necklace, with one of I don't know, one of the saints or something that you're supposed to pray to. And she's pray to this, anytime that ever happens to you again, and whatever was speaking to you will go away. And I just thought it was a dream, but I guess she said it was real. She didn't, whenever I brought it up, she didn't really go into much detail about it. And just so you guys know, I'm really sorry, this is going to be uncut. I do have my son who's playing outside. He is with me, so, you might hear him pop in and out, or you might hear screaming because I have my windows open. But anyways, or you might hear our cat Yuppie meowing because she's upset my mom went to a doctor's appointment. But anyways, so yeah, she got very quiet when I brought it up to her, and she didn't really say much about it. It's just that it was real. Like, that's all she said. I'm really curious as to like why she said that, and she said it the way she did, but she really didn't go into much detail about it. The next paranormal experience that I had, I was probably like around 10 years old. It was in an apartment complex in North Carolina. And I remember like the apartment letter and everything was H, and I swear this, like, I was H for hell. Like, this apartment was awful. My brother had experiences there, and so did I. But the worst experience that I had there was when I was in my mom's shower. I was taking a shower, minding my own business, and all of a sudden I heard this screaming, but it was like thousands, it sounded like millions of people screaming in agony, and like it was just like a horrific sound. Like, I don't know how to explain it, but I jumped out of the shower and I started screaming and crying, and my best friend's mom, who's watching me at the time, she runs in the room and she's like, what is going on? And I'm like, I like heard this like god awful screaming, like I couldn't get any words out. And she's like, nobody is screaming in the house. There's no screaming coming outside. And she didn't understand. And I'm like, I'm telling you, like, I heard this god awful screaming in the shower. Nothing ever came of it, but it just sounded like 1,000 people just screaming in agony, like coming from hell. Like, that's the only way that I can describe it, coming from the pits of hell. Like, it was awful. I guess in that same apartment, my brother was sleeping the one night, and he ended up rolling over, and there was like a demon standing next to the bed. And he said he didn't move, and eventually it just went away, but he was obviously scared by it. I wouldn't sleep in our bedroom. We shared a bedroom, and I would not sleep in that bedroom. I got awful feelings from it, and I just would not sleep in there. So yeah, that apartment was awful. Like, you just got terrible vibes in it. It was definitely haunted. So then those were probably like my most negative experiences. I've never really, I haven't experienced anything, like, I've had sleep paralysis over the years, where I've kind of experienced stuff, but like nothing like that since I was a kid. I pray to God that I never experience anything like that again, because that was horrifying. I don't mind watching, like, I love watching stuff on TV about it, but to experience yourself is a whole nother level of scary, especially when you're a young little kid. So then I didn't experience really anything else as a kid, not that I remember, at least. And then, the next paranormal thing that I did was, so I worked in this, restaurant. It was called Train Stop. And, it was a little family restaurant right near where I lived. And, like, I'm telling you, like, you got weird vibes from the bathroom, and you just, like, whenever you're alone, like, you just felt really creeped out, and, like, somebody was watching you all the time. And apparently, like, it was haunted, so my one manager and my boss said it was okay for us to do a paranormal investigation there one night after work. And, we ended up, having a paranormal investigation team come in, and it was really neat. It was my first paranormal investigation. Like, I mean, I didn't do anything. We just kind of watched them do their thing. But the one guy was walking in the kitchen, and something pushed out the trash can in front of him, and he tripped over it, which was crazy. And then, they did the flashlight thing where, like, you ask the flashlight questions, and if they, like, answer it, it turns on by itself. And then they had one of those, like, boxes, like, with the radio frequency, and, like, if you listened in between the radio frequency, you would get words out of it. I don't remember what was said. I was, like, 16 at the time, so I don't remember, but it was, like, a pretty cool experience to go through. And then, really, my next paranormal experience that I had, I guess that, like, sticks out to me, was when I was pregnant with my oldest. So for a little backstory, they did a test on me, like, I was probably, like, around 20-something weeks, and they do a test on you, and, like, they test for, like, genetic things and whatnot, and I got a flag marker for, my son, that he may have Down syndrome. So the doctors wanted to do what's called an amniocentesis, and that's essentially, like, where they stick a needle in your, like, through your stomach, well, I think it's your belly button, and they get fluid out from inside, and somehow they're able to determine, if your child had, like, they were able to determine if your child has Down syndrome. I opted to not do the test because it didn't matter to me if he had Down syndrome or not. Obviously, like, I was nervous my whole entire pregnancy, but at the end of the day, it didn't matter to me if he had Down syndrome or not. So I didn't want to risk having a needle shoved in my stomach and possibly hurting him. So I opted to not take the test, but I was super nervous my entire pregnancy until he was born, for obvious reasons. So during my pregnancy, the first thing that ended up happening that was paranormal, I was laying in bed with my kid's father at the time, and we were just laying there. The lights were on in the living room, and I don't know what we were doing, but all of a sudden the lights in the living room started flickering on and off, like, repeatedly, and we're like, okay, that's weird. And then all of a sudden the room filled up with the smell of perfume, and it smelled like it was my great grandma's perfume. It's called Charlie, and it's very distinct. And I even pulled out the perfume that we had left over, that was hers, and I was like, I made my kid's father smell it. I'm like, is this not what you were smelling? And he goes, holy cow. It was super creepy. Like, we were freaked out. We're like, what on earth is going on? Later, our family friend, she's a medium, she ended up calling me because she's like, I guess my great grandma was, like, very animate on speaking with me. And she said that she, was doing that to let me know that she's with me and that, my son's going to be okay. And then my entire pregnancy, after that experience, every night, until he was born, every night we would sit at the kitchen table and eat dinner, and you could smell her perfume every single night at the kitchen dinner table. So it was, at first it was scary, but it was pretty comforting after that. We just kind of knew that she was there. And she did that all the way up until he was born. And sure enough, he was born. He doesn't have Down syndrome. He's very, he's happy, healthy. He doesn't have any issues. So, we were very blessed. And, she was right. He was okay. So that was that. And then after that, would probably be the next experience that I really had was after my ex-boyfriend passed away. The first experience that I had, so I ended up writing him a letter after he passed away, and part of the letter, I put in there, I was like, if you could just let me know that you're okay somehow. That was, like, one of my things. I just wanted to know he was okay. And, after I was laying on the couch one night, and I was in a really deep sleep, and I had this dream where, he came into my dream, laid on the couch with me, and he's like, I'm just letting you know that I'm okay, but I have to go back to where I'm supposed to be. And then he got up, and he went through this door. When he opened it, it was, like, really bright inside. It was full light, and he walked through the door, and I woke up from my dream. But the weird part is about that is, like, in my dream, like I could feel, and it, like, felt like somebody, like, laid next to me on the couch, like, the pressure. And then, like, whenever he said he had to go and he got up, like, I could feel the pressure lift up off the couch, which was crazy. So I truly believe that it was him visiting me and letting me know that he was okay. And then after that, I moved into this apartment, and he kind of did the same thing, but it wasn't a dream or anything. I was laying on my couch again one night, because for whatever reason, I just like sleeping on the couch. I was laying with my son, and I was laying there, and I could hear, like, it almost sounded like a cat playing with toys on the floor, but we didn't have any cats. We did have a dog, but the dog was sleeping with my mom in the other room. So, like, it wasn't the dog up doing anything. So I was like, okay, I'm like, that's weird. And then I felt like almost like a presence in a room. Like, it was like a very heavy feeling. Like, it wasn't a negative feeling, but it just, like, felt like somebody was there. And I was like, okay, like, and the like, the presence was so strong that I actually woke my mom up out of her sleep, and I was like, Mom, I was like, I'm hearing noises, and, like, I feel very uncomfortable. So she ended up getting out, like, she laid there for a minute, and she could hear the noises, and she's like, okay, she's like, that is weird, but, like, go to sleep. So she ended up getting up, making coffee, and then she went outside, obviously. So she turned on the lights to make the coffee. When she went outside, she turned off the lights. And all the cupboard doors were shut in the kitchen. And when she came back in, she turned on the lights, and all the cupboards were back on, like, were open. And I'm like, okay, Mom, I'm like, that's weird. And she goes, yeah, that is really weird. So, we kind of talked about it for a couple minutes, and then she went and laid back down, and we're laying there, and all of a sudden I start smelling a cologne, and I knew what the cologne smell was. It was, my ex-boyfriend's cologne. He had a very specific cologne. I don't remember the name of it now, but, I just remember, I knew the scent. I was like, okay, I know who this is. And I'm like, okay, that makes sense. It wouldn't be the first time that, my ex, has tried, communicating with me and stuff like that through, whether it's been a medium or, having his scent known or going through a dream and stuff, but those were, the most predominant experiences with him. After, I was also told by a medium that, I'm a little bit sensitive, so, I don't know how, true that is, but, I get, weird sensations, uncomfortable feel. I don't know how to explain it. It's, an uncomfortable feeling, if there's something around. And the more predominant it is, the more uneasy I get. Outside of that, I don't know how else to explain it. Otherwise, that, I don't know. But I guess I've also been told that I'm, an empath. How true that is, I don't know. I've never really, gone into it or anything like that. That's what I've been told. I, also have, a sixth sense almost. The one time, I was sitting in my car, and I was scrolling through Facebook, and my friend's picture popped up, and I was like, something, seems off, I should, message them and make sure they're okay. I don't know why I got that feeling. I was like, hey, I don't know what's going, so I messaged her, and I was like, hey, I don't know what's going on, but, if, everything's gonna be okay, I just had this feeling to reach out to you, that, you're going through a hard time or something. And sure enough, she was like, wow, that's wild. She's like, she, went into detail about what was going on in her life, and it was actually, spiritual stuff going on, and, she's like, I don't know how you knew that, but that's crazy. So, I don't know, I guess, I have, a little bit of a sixth sense that I've never tapped into it. At least, I don't know. They say that everybody, is, has a sixth sense, but I don't know. That's just kind of where I am. Sorry, my cat's going crazy. She's very upset right now. So the next, predominant experience that I had was, I was living in an apartment with my 3 kids and my boyfriend at the time, and, I guess, there was this lady spirit that was there. She's very, she just, to make her presence known sometimes. My medium friend told me she was a female. That's all I really knew. But otherwise my youngest son nicknamed her Ladybug. Yes, we had so many, enough experiences where we nicknamed the ghost. So we nicknamed her Ladybug. And I, the very first, experience I remember in that apartment with her was, I was in the kitchen cooking dinner, the kids were playing on the video game, and my boyfriend at the time was sitting on the couch, and all of a sudden, we heard this huge crash, and, I thought one of the kids got into something, and, something fell on them, or something like that, so I run out of the kitchen, and my boyfriend at the time was like, that came from right behind me, that crashing noise. It wasn't the upstairs neighbors, the crashing noise came from behind the couch, and there was nothing there that was crashing. It was just a huge crash sound, and that was that. It freaked us out, and, we went about the rest of our day, but we were like, that was weird. And then a lot of the time, like in the one bedroom door, like she did not like, she would like to open it and shut it. Mainly she would, a lot of the time, like I would open up the door and then she would would shut it, and we kind of just would give up. I know the one night I was laying there and I kept opening the door. I felt uncomfortable, so I would get up and open the door and it would shut on its own. And I'm like, there's no draft or anything like there that would make it shut. It wasn't like one of those doors that automatically shut on their own. Like you actually had to push it to shut it. So I was like, okay, I'm like, this is weird. So I would get up, open it back up, and then it would shut again. And I'm like, okay, like whatever. I gave up and went to sleep. And then a couple nights later, my son, my oldest, we were just sitting there, and he goes, Mom, he goes, I came to bed the one night, and he goes, I kept trying to, like, I would leave the door open, and then the door would shut on its own, and then I would get back up, and he goes, it would shut again. And he goes, I had to keep getting up, and he's like, it just kept doing its thing. And I'm like, yeah, honey, I'm like, it did that to me too. I'm like, I wouldn't really worry about it. He's like, I just went to sleep. And I'm like, well, that's good. They were never freaked out by it or anything. And then the next big thing that really happened, like, that I was like, oh, okay, I'm like, this is weird. I was in the bathroom the one morning, and I don't know, like, for all you parents out there, like, us moms, like, we really don't get privacy when we're in the bathroom. I would lock the door, but my kids knew how to unlock the door and get in the bathroom. All three of them. So, I had no privacy. So, the one morning, I was sitting there, had the door locked, bathroom was shut, and the doorknob started wiggling, like one of the kids were trying to get in. The older two were at school, and then Seth was home and he was supposed to be sleeping. I thought that he got up and he was trying to get into the bathroom. And I'm like, Seth, I'm like, open up the door. I'm like, I know you know how to open the door. I'm like, just open it. I'm like, open it, bud. And he would not, like, the door wouldn't open. And I'm like, okay, I'm like, that's weird. And this happened, like, for 5 minutes while I was trying to go to the bathroom. And I'm like, that's weird. I'm like, normally they just come in. So I finish going to the bathroom, and I go out, and I start calling for Seth, because I assumed he was awake. And I walk out, and sure enough, him and my boyfriend at the time were passed out sleeping on the couch. And later, I asked my boyfriend at the time, I'm like, did Seth get up at all or anything? And he's like, no. And he's like, we were both sleeping on the couch. And I'm like, that's really weird, because the bathroom doorknob kept just wiggling. I'm like, that's weird. And for me, like, I hate, like, anything. Like, I'm like, if you're going to do anything paranormal to me, like anything's gonna happen, I'm like, please do not let it happen to the bathroom, because I had that bad experience when I was a kid. So I was, like, all freaked out, because I don't, like, the bathroom's a no-no for me. So I was like, okay, I'm like, I don't care what you do in the house, like, make your presence known, whatever, but I'm like, please don't do it when I'm in the bathroom or shower, please. And that never happened again. But otherwise that, like, those were the main things. Like, you just kind of, like, knew she was there. I thought it was really cool the one day I was, like, on Snapchat, and I had, like, the dog filter. I don't know if I still have the pictures on Facebook. I'll have to go, like, check, and maybe I'll post them. But, like, you could see on my chest, like, where, like, the little dog would appear, but there was nobody there. My friend who's a medium, she uses the Snapchat filters, and she has spirits in her house, and it does the same thing. I thought it was really cool, because you would have my face, and then there's this tiny little blotch of, like, a little dog just chilling on my chest. I thought that was pretty cool. But that was, like, the most paranormal experience that I, like, had there. And then, let's see. Oh, I've experienced so much stuff over the years. I've gone to see mediums and stuff like that over the years. I've gone to haunted locations and stuff like that with my friends and stuff over the years. But those are the most predominant experience that I've had. I still sometimes, like, will smell like my great-grandma or my ex sometimes. Hasn't happened in a long time, but I have had that, like, happen over the years where, like, I'll get a whiff of their perfume or cologne. And then, I guess, like, most recently, for context, I live next door to a cemetery. Do I feel like there's anything in my home or anything like that? No, like, I don't ever get an uneasy feeling. Like, I can sleep in the dark, although my closet kind of gives me the creeps, but, otherwise, I just shut the closet door and it's fine. But otherwise that, like, I've never, like, experienced anything really paranormal in the house that the apartment that I currently live in. But the one night so also for back context, we live in a duplex. So there's an upstairs and there's a downstairs, but the upstairs, there's nobody that lives there. It's vacant. And our landlord lives across the street, and nobody, like, really goes up there. If they do any work on the apartment, it's during the daytime. It's never at nighttime. So one night, my mom and I are just laying down, and we're getting ready, we're going to sleep, and all of a sudden, like, we hear, like, this ginormous pounding coming from upstairs, and we're like, what on earth is that? And it kept happening, like, on and off, like, just pounding, like somebody's, like, dropping something on the floor. And I'm like, okay, that's weird. And so my mom texts the landlord, because I'm like, what if somebody broke in upstairs or something like that? And the landlord went over there to check to see if anything has happened, like, somebody broke in or anything, and nobody was there. The door was locked, and we have no idea what that pounding was. The only thing, like, I could think, I was like, okay, I'm like, this is weird. Don't know if that was paranormal or not, but, like, it's just weird that there's nobody up there. Like, we haven't experienced any pounding like that since, it just was really weird. And we do live, like I said, we do live next door to a cemetery, so, it is weird, and I guess stuff like that could happen. But, yeah, like, otherwise that, like, I, recently, in my older years, like, I haven't really experienced much paranormal. I do watch a lot of paranormal stuff. Like I said, I like to watch a lot of Sam and Colby. My kids and I love watching Sam and Colby. We're Sam and Colby fanatics, and we love watching Paranormal Files. We watch Ghost Contemplations constantly. So we're very huge into the paranormal here. We don't really get freaked out very much. Actually, I did experience something a little paranormal, I guess, like, within the last year. I was staying at my kid's father's house, and I was laying in the one bedroom, and it felt like somebody, like, sat on the bed at the end of it, and then, like, somebody got up, so I sat up, because I thought, his cat, Jerry, was in the room, and he was jumping off the bed, but he wasn't in the room. I had the door shut, and he wasn't in the room with me. It was just me. So I was like, okay, that's really weird. So I got up, and I was like, Pat, I'm like, what's going on? I'm like, it's like somebody just sat on my bed and got up. And he's like, yeah, that happens sometimes. I'm like, what do you mean that happens sometimes? Like, that's weird. And then, one day the kids were in the shower and the light kept flickering, and I'm like, if there's a ghost, just tell it to leave you alone, and they'll leave you alone. And the lights would stop flickering, and then the one day the one shade just fell for no reason. So I guess there might be a little ghost at my kid's father's house, but they don't really say very much about it, but I don't know. That was, like, the only experience that I had there. But yeah, I've had a lot of paranormal experiences over the years, good and bad. And it's definitely been an interesting ride when it comes to that. I definitely would love to, like, have more readings done in the future. I definitely am huge into that. I would love to tap into my, like, sensitive side one day and see what that's all about, but I don't know, we'll see what the future holds. But again, like I said, this is a platform where I would like to share your guys' stories too. I shared some of mine, so I would love to share some of yours. Again, you can go ahead and email me your stories at paranormalchronicleswithjenna@gmail.com. and you can tell me your spooky, scary stories, and see what those are all about. And, I don't care what kind of paranormal it is. I love it all. I think it all fascinates me, whether it's, Appalachian stories or, I don't know, whatever, share it. I definitely would love to hear it. I love haunted house stuff. Whatever, definitely share. I'm sorry, I'm like stumbling a little bit. I go a little fast. I'm a little nervous, and obviously it's my first podcast that I'm doing, so I'm rambling a little bit. But, I definitely will be doing this again. I hope you guys enjoyed and liked listening to my paranormal experiences that I've had over the years. And I'm looking forward to hear all your guys' paranormal experiences, to see what you guys have gone through. And, at some point I would love to have some guests on to share their stories, or, maybe even have some mediums come on and, share what they do and things like that. So I definitely, it's, my podcast is work in progress. It's just starting, but I do have, a future in mind for it, and, goals and where I want it to be. I'm testing out new technology and stuff like that, and kind of trying to see where it goes, but I don't know. This is my first episode, and, maybe one time I'll get on video. I tried doing my first video with my face on there, but I got all creeped out staring at myself, so I turned it off because it was making me nervous. So maybe eventually I'll get on there and, be able to do that, but it was weird watching myself talk, so I didn't like it very much, so I turned off the camera. But yeah, I hope to do this more often, and, if you liked it, please share, and I will hopefully be doing one of these sooner than later. Alright, thank you. This is Paranormal Chronicles. This was our very first episode, and my name's Jenna, and I will see you guys soon.